Hey Hollywood Hills fans, welcome to another show. Now, as we said in last week's show, it was a holding pattern where we rolled out our new 2021 National Cross Country Motorcycle Champions. One or two of those results and announcements may change, by the way, but those were the results and the announcements as they were at the time. Stand by and see if there's anything changing, but there's a few things going on behind the scenes. Hopefully nothing too nasty, but that's what the results were at the time of us going to press. So this weekend just gone was the penultimate round of the GXCCs out at Verena. And for me, one of the best laid out tracks and events and venues I have ever seen. It was gorgeous, perfect conditions. Vian did everything he could to lay out a rock and roll track for the juniors, a great track for the seniors, which obviously covered the quads and the motorcycle categories in the afternoon. And we were blessed with real good rain. I think this is going to go down as one of the events of the year. I can't wait to get out there in 2022. Please stick this on the calendar. That was a super cool event. So let me just tell you how things are going to go for the Hollywood Hills reviews. With the tightening of the calendar and a lot of events very closely packed at the end of the season, we're very tight for our production timeline budgets. So this week is going to be, as always, the week after the GXCCs, the quads and the juniors that went out at Verena, where we started to nail down a couple of champions, but there's still plenty of points on the plate. So most of the juniors and the quads will be going down to the wire at the final round, which is yet to be announced as far as venues go, but we obviously know the date is going to be the first racing weekend of December. Then next week, we'll go into the pro motorcycle categories as always. And then me and the lads this weekend are going up to Middelburg, the classic race venue of dirt tracks. And this is going to be the fifth round and the final round of 2021 to crown our Farm Jam champions across all of their categories. So we're rolling up for that. Then we're going to go into edit for that. So that is going to be this week, quads and juniors. Next week, pro motorcycles, both GXCCs. Then the third week, we'll be rolling out our review of the Farm Jam. And the following week, which takes us 1 week before the final GXCC, you guys keeping up with me? That's going to be our support class. And of course, our next tip and hints from Justin over at CW. So without further ado, this is Quads and Juniors from Verena. Enjoy. This GXCC racing action powered by Dunlop is brought to you by SPX Logistics, Dunlop, RME Bearings and Transmission, and driven by Bikers Warehouse. A brand new GXCC race venue of Verena and at a classic time of the year. October is always Cancer Awareness Month, so there's going to be some good vibe out there. Vian tells us all about it and what to expect.
Yeah, today obviously we're doing the race for some contribution to cancer. It's Cancer Awareness Month, and we're getting everybody dressed up in pink, and you're going to see a lot of guys with their pink tutus out there, and bikes that have been stickered pink and all of that sort of stuff. And I think it's great geest at the end of the day for everybody to be out there and just wearing something pink in support of cancer.
For the morning sessions, the quads will be going out there. We caught up with two of the top contenders in the Q1s and Q2s, Keenan Hammond and CD Goosen, to talk about the event and the championship.
It sounds like a nice track. It's going to be a tough race from what I hear, but I'm really excited for the second last race. It's been a great season, and it's just going to be a good end of to the year.
Today, if I do one lap, I have the championship in a bag, so really excited for that.
We just kept the bike the same. It's been doing its job throughout the year, so we just leave everything the same. That's how I'm happy.
It's going to be good for close racing. Hopefully I can catch up to some of the Q1 leaders and have some good racing.
Definitely, it's going to be awesome to race with no dust. Hopefully we can get some closer racing and some more fun passes out there.
First gate, as always, was going to be the Q1s. The story would be to watch out where Keenan Hammond and Henny Mikau would gate. As always, it was going to be a strong pull from the Yamaha man, with John Aylward still looking for his first ever GXCC win. He lined up in a solid number 2 spot coming off the gate. The big story, though, was Henny Macau Jr. way out of the top 4. He was going to have to chase from the back of the pack. For now, in the early stages of the 42-kilometer loop, it was all advantage Keenan Hammond, who, remember, came into this round second on championship points before the throwaways. Terrain absolutely gorgeous out at Verena. The next gate was going to be the Q2s, where the whole shot superstar once again and the championship points leader, C.D. Gerson, knew exactly what he had to do. That was simply to roll off the gate and bring home a finish. But for him, he wanted to take the penultimate victory and be able to wrap up his championship by seeing the checkers first. A nice rock-solid hole shot saw him running out the numbers and stretching himself away from the rest of the chasing pack. A small gate of Q2s this time around, but we're expecting an insurgent and resurgence of this category going forward into 2022. On the gate, his closest rival this time was Rian Dick. For the Masters category, it's been an interesting situation where this time around we saw former championship points leader Cobus Ferreira rocket his big 700cc machine out front. His closest championship rival a no-show at the penultimate round. So we're going to see some chopping and changing on the gate, where Philip Boyce was going to be losing his championship advantage. The swing was going back the way of Cobus Ferreira. Jaco Krikke, as always, captain stock standard, was going to be looking for a top 3 as he now tries to move his way up into a top 3 in the series. But we had Henny Macau Sr., and he is always a massive threat in any terrain. On the quad veterans, no surprise to see Peter Gerson hammer the nail and get the throttle going on the big 4x4 Can-Am. He was going to be chased down by just 2 competitors this time around. And importantly, these are the guys going after the championship, almost going up and over as he picked it up on 2 wheels, putting on a stunt show coming off the whole shot queue. That gave the advantage to championship points leader Francois Berger, as he would now lead out into the terrain, chased down by Piet Swanepoel. The great situation here at Verena was rain in the weeks building up to the event and the days, and then the night before the race we had rain as well. Prime conditions for everyone to go out there and have a great time. Hopefully the dust would stay down for the majority of the day. For the ladies, it's been a great story to see Shannon Shape come in late on in the season. She pulled another whole shot alongside her sparring partner and championship points leader, Liesl Barnard. These 2 ladies have been setting the quad world on fire. And a little note for Judith Krikke, who had rolled out and got an early birthday present, a big 700cc Yamaha Raptor. So horsepower was not going to be a problem for her this time around. She had plenty of ponies to go and do the chase down. So that was all the quaddies out there on the 42-kilometer loop. Now we turn our attention to the whole shot and the start line queue for our junior racers who were desperate to get their numbers on the page. Remember, with just 2 rounds to go, including this round here at Verena, championships were all everyone was starting to think about. The senior 85s had to pull the pin. From way on the outside, and one of the best hole shots I've ever seen pulled on a GXCC gate, little Cobus Bester got the job done. Remember, he has just been crowned the national 85cc cross-country champion, and he is filled with confidence. Himself and Tommy Scales were once again going to be going elbows up as they went out onto the short but technical and testing junior loop of 13.3 kilometers. I checked out this route before the event, and it was going to be a spectacular one for the kids. On the junior 85s, Clarkey is on the up and up. Brandon Clark pulled another hole shot. That's exactly the same situation that happened to his teammate Bester just a few minutes before him, and he was going to start to swing the axe. He's been climbing the championship ladder in the second half of the season, and his sparring partner on the gate for that championship, Bruno Niebuhr, would have to come from outside of the top 5. This was going to be a war for the championship now as they headed out of the gate. It was going to be elbows up. The championship was starting to swing. On the 65cc gate, always giving us our best junior entry, we had Ben van Schalkwyk going out there, Jaden Els, but by the end of the whole shot queue, sweeping the outside gate, Mackenzie Bam was going to see clear air coming out of the whole shot scenario. This was her best advantage at the moment. She's chasing down a top 3 in the championship, but she is yet to get the big win going in 2021. This was going to be her big chance out at Verena as she pulled a massive whole shot. And then our future superstars, the 50cc gate and the whole shot machine that is Jean-Luc van der Westhuizen, pulled the pin once again and fired out into the distance, chased down by Declan Richards and Wilco de Plooy. De Plooy has been on a bit of a burner in the second half of this season, so third out the gate was a good position for him. Jean-Luc van der Westhuizen, remember, he had that spectacular crash whilst leading the race at the previous event, so he was going to have to just keep it on 2 wheels, hope that everything went good. For now, the whole shot was the perfect start for the machine. Here's Vian to tell us what was in store for the kids.
Yeah, you know what, for the whole year we've had the juniors on easy loops, which was, you know, faster stuff, maybe longer sweeping turns. Today we're really going to test them a little bit. Nothing seriously technical, but ultimately it's going to be a much slower race for them with lots of twists and turns, rocky terrain, bumpy. They're going to be busy, but it's going to be an awesome loop. It's only 13.3 kilometers in length. Normally we push for about 15, but with the level of technicality on the route, it's a good thing that we brought it down to 13 Ks.
Out on the loop and the kids having all kinds of fun. On the 50cc gate, we've seen a lot of girls coming in, and that's great for the future of the sport. Allegra Kuhn getting herself up there to challenge for a number 6. Just up the road from her, Marley Labuskakny. I think Marley is going to be one of the riders to challenge for top 5s all the way through in 2022. Can't believe we're already thinking about planning for next season. Derek Milan, who came in off the back of a couple of injuries towards the end of last season and the beginning of this season, he's just trying to find his groove and find his feet once again. A 4th place this time around will keep him in the hunt, but really, he is looking forward to the 2022 clean season. Declan Richards, who has been in or around the podium for the second half of the tour, has been something of a surprise package, and he's bringing home consistent rides and finishes every single time. Perhaps the technical layout of this track didn't suit his style down to the ground, but 3rd place was still good enough to get the job done and onto the podium. For the whole shot machine, Jean-Luc van der Westhuizen looked like he had it wrapped up in the bag. He was absolutely gone until a crash on the final lap put him down and out. But he was still good enough to recover and get the 2nd place finish. But that last lap crash was a big one, and Jean-Luc certainly felt it. Another win. Gone, but a 2nd place still keeps him in the championship hunt. So once again, it's Wilco de Plooy, who has been playing the long game this season. He really has been the kid to beat on the 50cc's in the second half of the tour. And once again at Verena, he saw the checkers. De Plooy's win keeps the championship alive. Jean-Luc van der Westhuizen surviving his crash on the last lap to tag that 2nd place. That's going to be important for the series. Richards, Milan, Labuskakny and Kuhn taking us through the top 6. The 50cc's still to decide their championship. It goes to the final round. On the 65cc gate, getting us through inside of the top 6, Ewan Fourie managed to best Ben van Schalkwyk, so the top Kawasaki guy slipping off the box for one of the first times this season. Liam Schippers was all the way up there inside of the top 5, bringing home some rock-solid numbers. Schippers starting to really find his form on the 65cc gate, and this was one of the most challenging, technical, but still flowing tracks that the kids have faced so far in the 2021 season. Verena Kleinams also enjoyed his time out there on the bars. Really good open terrain, very safe passing, and just a little bit more of a fun track. Every kid coming back with massive smiles on their dials. Jaden Els was an absolute ripper out there. He has been a multiple event winner, but this time around, a 3rd place actually records one of his lowest finishes of the season. That's going to keep the championship alive. Mackenzie Bam pulled one of her best ever starts and ran away with the whole shot, only getting passed by one rider late on in the event to have to eventually settle for a number 2 spot. But that's going to keep her in that fight for the top 3, possibly a top 2 in the championship. Up the road though, and he has been a winner. In fact, he took the first win of the season. He now gets another win under his belt, and that's going to be an important one as well, because the championship now is between the last of the Mohicans, Hanyu de Kock, and Jaden Els. De Kock has the advantage going into the final round. Here's confirmation of De Kock on top ahead of Bam and Els, with Klenum, Skippers, Fourie, Van Skalkwyk, Boddington, Meyer and Tienpont rounding us out. This championship also goes to the last one. For the junior 85s, where we're starting to see these kids really come to terms. Remember, this is the feeder category before they go forward into the senior 85s. Straight after that, it is all the way up the road into the big show. Nathan Sinclair getting another solid top 6 finish. Chimelo Basabuko gets himself a number 5. And John Bodmaritz gets up there. John Bodmaritz has been absolutely amazing, tagging a ton of top 6 finishes. We're no doubt going to see him on the box come the end of the season for the championship final awards as well. He was one of the kids actually to start championing the Kawasaki brand in their comeback season before a couple of the factory squads and support factory squads picked up the brand as well. Bruno Niebuhr, who came into this round as championship points leader, suffers a 3rd place, his lowest finish of the season. He was actually in a good position, and then on lap number 2, a flat tire and problems whilst changing the flat tire dropped him down. That's a 3rd place for Niebuhr. That is a loss of the championship points lead. Luke Battersby moves himself up into a 2 spot, one of his highest finishes of the season as well, and that is looking good. Battersby on point at the moment, and also shows the varied terrain, because Battersby has a background in rock hopping. That's why we see him running good numbers. But it was Clarkey who pulled the pin, got the big hole shot, and never looked back. He is really on the bounce, coming off a 3rd place in the National Championship Series for the National Cross Country Juniors, and now he's going to be heading into the final round on paper as the championship points leader. Watch out for this battle. It's going to be Clarkey versus Niebuhr, elbows up in the final round. But Verena was all about Clarkey coming good in 2021 once again. Confirmation of Brandon Clarkey Clark getting it done ahead of Battersby. Niebuhr, an important 3rd place, even though he had his problems on the day to get those points on the page. Maritz, Masabuku, Sinclair, Pretorius, Opperman, Buerta and Human rounding things out. Next up, the senior 85s. Senior 85s is a rarefied atmosphere. A lot of these kids waiting for the move to jump up into the big show and onto the senior loop and start things out on the high score 125s. So very much a feeder category. These kids waiting for their chance to get onto the big money. Kitleko McKenny gets himself up inside of a number 6 finish once again. The ever consistent Timmy Blake rocking a number 5 finish once again for the Vans Racing squad. Loved this terrain, custom made for Timmy. He loves it when it is varied. Keanu Fisser, all style, this kid. Can't wait to see him step up onto the 125s. It's got to be coming soon, because he is dwarfing that bike right now, and he's one of the most aggressive and impressive riders to watch as he rips the bars off out there. Dwayne Combrink, almost known as Mr. Number 3 at the moment, super consistent, but just cannot run the pace of the top 2 right now. He looks like he's good enough to get a number 3 on his plate, though, going forward into next season. The dice out front the whole way through the season. The early part of the season has been all about Tommy Scales, but this time around he's starting to suffer in the second half of the tour. He's been bested once or twice, and this time around he had to once again settle for 2nd place, but it was a very close battle between himself and now arch rival and championship contender Kobus Bester. Tommy Scales gets 2nd, which means it's your newly crowned champ for the national cross countries in the 85s, Kobus Bester. He's definitely come back from winning that title and feeling buoyed. You can see the confidence just oozing out of the kid. And the J212 takes the win once again and the flag, and he's starting to stare down the barrel of a GXCC championship. Here's confirmation of Bester on top, beating out on Tommy the Gun. Combrink in 3rd ahead of Fisser, Blake, McKenny, Goos, Vermaak, Grobler and Swartz. This dice will once again go to the last round. With the juniors wrapped up, then we turn our attention to what the course has for the quaddies. A spectacular layout of the track, 42 kilometers, and probably one of the best raceable tracks we have seen in 2021.
On Monday we had a lot of rain that came down, and we thought it's going to be staying moist and wet the whole time. By yesterday afternoon, when some of the guys came in to do their pits, it was dusty like hell. So last night we went to bed and suddenly it started raining, and it was such a blessing in disguise. This morning everything is nice and moist. Quad loop is going to be awesome. Their loop is going to be 42 Ks. We aimed for about 45, but there was one section that we cut out for the mud. But ultimately they're going to have an awesome loop with probably everything that you can think of for a cross-country race, from bumps, humps, twists, turns, faster stuff, rocks, river crossings, some climbs, but it's awesome out there.
Quads were definitely in for one of the treats of 2021. Starting out with our ladies, Judith Kricker rolling out on the big 700 for the first time ever. Still trying to get used to the power and the different suspension setup. Remember, the big Raptors do sit very, very high, and she's coming off a smaller capacity and physically smaller quad. Fourth place, though, will still keep her in the hunt. Remember, she's trying to nail down a top 3 in the championship, but this quad will continue to be developed into 2022. Celeste Berger was up the road on one of the smaller vehicles. Her L944 got her a 3rd place finish this time around, but she'll be bragging that she was the first of the 2-wheel drive quads with the 4x4s up the road. Championship points leader who did start out the season way back in February on a 2-wheel drive, and since then switched across to the big Can-Am Maverick 4x4. Remember, 1,000 cc's of power. It's hard to fight against that much brute force out there on the track. 2nd place this time around, but still good enough to hang on to the championship points lead headed to the final round. The story of the last couple of rounds, though, has been Shannon Shape. The L223 rider came out of practically nowhere. And basically, the numbers tell us if she'd have been a player throughout the season, it may have been a closer run thing in the championship. Dominating the ladies' class in the last couple of rounds, Verena was no different as she hammered the nail to take another victory at this classic race venue. All the quad racers saying they can't wait to come back here once again. A small entry this time around into the quad veterans, where we saw the whole shot superstar that is Peter Goosen getting it done off the line, almost upending himself coming out of the whole shot queue, but good enough to still bring it home for a 3rd place finish to keep hold of his 3rd place in the championship chase as well. A little bit further up the road from him, Piet Swanepoel coming off a strong victory in the 2nd half of the season, starting to bring home more consistent and faster rides as well. Not too much of a challenge this track this time around. The quads definitely had to work for it, but there were some spectacular areas to keep them entertained as well. The copy giving them the high points and looking over the valley, and the low points giving them lots of fun to work with. Francois Berger, after having a big crash at the previous round, was back on point once again, and the L254 is still in the championship points lead, and he backs that up with another big win out at Verena. When the checkers came out for Shannon Shape, we caught up with the fastest lady on point at the moment.
It was very nice to mark, really an enjoyable, nice track, very nice. I started a bit late in the year, and then at Ventersdorp I had problems with my bike. So the last 2 races have been going well, but other than that I'm a bit behind because I started late.
Confirmation of Berger back on top ahead of Swanepoel and Goosen, and for the ladies, Shannon Shape ahead of Barnard, Berger and Kricker. The ladies' title very close, but not quite yet decided. Same situation for the vets. Moving forward then into the Masters category, and with a no-show for Philip Boyce, it was blown wide open for the championship chase. Fernando dos Santos, his aggressive, all-action Joe Jackson riding style, getting himself up there at number 6 ride once again. Love watching this guy get loose on that big 700 Raptor. Number 5 spot this time around for Xander Branken. Remember, at the previous round, he suffered some big mechanical problems, and that's why we're going to see him chase hard for these last 2 rounds of the 2021 season. Number 5 this time around doesn't look good. He may be slipping out of championship points contention. Jaco Kricker, who decided to stay on Old Faithful, brings home yet another rock-solid ride inside of a number 4. We are expecting to see Kricker step up and get a new quad developed, though, going forward into 2022. because the style and pace that he's able to run on his stock standard Suzuki, if he gets a little bit more ponies, he could be able to fight for top threes every single time. Championship points leader up until the halfway marker of the season, and coming out of the big hole shot this time around, Verena rocks a number 3 finish. But third place, and with Philip Boyce a no-show, Verena will retake the championship points lead. He was in a ding-dong battle the whole way through the day with Roxy DeSantos. DeSantos getting the better of him this time around to rock and roll to a very high number 2 position. By my count, that looks like Roxy getting his highest finish of the 2021 season. All these points will change how things look with the top 3 heading to the final round of the season, where the venue is yet to be announced. But as we said, coming into the final round, it is tough to bet against Henny Macau Sr., a former multiple championship points winner, in and out of the championship for the last couple of rounds during the changeable conditions with COVID. But now, Henny looks like he's getting himself ready to take on a full attack and assault in 2022. He was simply unbeatable on the C59 out at Verena. Cool to see Henny Sr. back on the money on the number 1. So here's confirmation of Macau on the top step once again, with Roxy DeSantos taking a number 2 step. Verena, third place, puts him back in the championship points lead. It's a nail-biter heading to the final round, with Kricher in 4th, Branken in 5th, and Fernando in a number 6. Into the Q2s, where we saw small numbers on the page this time around, and it looked like it was going to be a strong second place until some issues out there on the course for Reinhard Swart. He would eventually get enough time back in hand to credit a number 4 finish. I hope this guy is on point for the whole season next year, because every time he is a threat for a top 3er. Stefan Ferreira has had something of a resurgence in 2021, really gelling absolutely perfectly well with his machine on the new tour. Third place this time around will see him potentially move up into a top 3 for the series as well. No mechanicals, no punches, no issues. That's what he needs every single time now. Second place, and actually in the race lead for a short time when CD Goosen did have a big crash and go down, eventually dropping down to a number 2 spot. This should cement Rian Dick's position inside of second place for the championship, with a no-show for David Stradum or Potgieter. So that's going to change things up in the championship going forward into the final round. Second place for Rian Dick cements his position as one of the key riders on the tour. But it's CD Goosen who came into this round just needing a small handful of points to wrap up a back-to-back championship. Remember, he's the reigning champion coming out of 2020. He got the big hole shot. He had a massive crash around about halfway through the race, managed to pick himself up after losing around about 50 seconds, chased back, got on the back wheel of Rian Dick, made the pass, got the win, and wraps up another championship in the Q2s. Congratulations to CD, a back-to-back championship winner.
Yeah, 2 times in a row, I'm ecstatic. It was nice. It was my style. I was just not expecting it, and that's all.
Cool to see CD getting it done. So the final round for him is going to be a glory run. CD confirmed as the winner out at Verena ahead of Dick, Ferreira, and Swart. Next up, the Q1 key riders. Stefan Muller got a good drop off the gate as well. In fact, he was running third place in the early part of the event, but it looked like mechanicals dropped him back later on, eventually taking a number 6 finish. Tinas Kutzer has been the second fastest Honda out there the whole way through the season. And I do like his riding style. He seems to gel very well with the 450 on the Honda that does sit lower than a lot of the other bikes, but he's turned his style up and he really makes it work for him. Number 5 will keep him inside the top 6 for the championship tally. John Aylward, who has been aching for a win on the GXCC Tour, every single time it looks like he's about to get the job done, something goes wrong. He has blown 3 motors throughout this championship tour, and this time around it was another mechanical issue. This time it looked like it was the exhaust header pipe that popped out. He was scared about bending some of the valves, had to do some running repairs out there on the track, and eventually had to bow out, only credited with a number 4 finish. It's a heartbreaker for John Elwood because his pace shows that he should definitely be challenging for race wins every single time. That moved Christian Verena up in the rankings as well and up in the championship tally. The second half of the season has been super strong for Christian, who does go well in the high-speed runs, but with the mixed terrain here, he would have been very happy to tag a number 3 ride come the end of play out at Verena. So that leaves us with the top 2 on the road and the top 2 in the championship as well. Big Henny Macau Jr. absolutely dominating and dwarfing the small 450 Honda. But he does like to get loose, does like to get wild, and he had a perfect run. No mechanicals this time around, no punches for the big dude as well. And the C58 was good enough to take a second place. But second place may not be good enough for the championship, as Keenan Hammond has really started to rip the bars off the Yamaha in the second half of the season. This was truly Keenan Hammond land, as he got wild and loose out there for the full racing format. And a win here moves him ever closer to nailing down yet another championship. Could we see the Yamaha kid stand on top once again in 2021?
Definitely nothing like we've had the rest of the year. Extremely bumpy, these small little bumps that just destroy your hands. Tight, up, down, next to the river. Overall a really great track. This morning I was able to have a good race with John. No dust, nothing, but the dust is coming out now, so it's going to be tough for the two-wheelers, I think. With this win, I'm looking good in the championship. I don't want to speak too soon, but I'm hoping to lock that down at the next race.
Die trek was lekker, dis tighty, twisty en tighty. Was baie lekker, baie veilig, baie mooi gemerk. Ons het dit baie geniet vandag. Ek het gedoen wat ek wou die reis klaarmaak, ek wou net my bike spaar. Ons het nog net een reis oor en ja, kan nie wag vir die laaste een nie. Dan kan ons 'n bietjie uitgaan om te wen.
We can't wait either. It's going to be a spectacular final round. Hammond then confirmed on top at Verena ahead of Macau, Ferreira, Aylward, Kutzer and Muller. The quads are going down to the wire on the Q1s, and we love it. So that concludes our wrap-up of the juniors and the quads from the penultimate round of the GXCCs out in Verena. This championship still goes to the final round, so watch out for all that action coming down the pipe. On next week's Hollywood Hills show, it's the chance for the pro motorcycle categories to shine out at Verena. Watch out for that. Stay tuned and enjoy as always. This GXCC racing action powered by Dunlop was brought to you by SPX Logistics, Dunlop, RME, Bearings and Transmission, and driven by the Bikers Warehouse. So as we said, that is the first of a 3-parter, and we're going to be sticking a farm jam in the middle of that. Right now, me and the LiveX lads are burning up the keyboards, getting the pro bikes ready for you. That's going to be on next week's show, and of course, we'll remind you guys, and hopefully by then, be able to start telling you where the final round of the GXCCs is going to be. For now, we'll sign off. Get ready for pro bikes coming around the corner next week.